Yeah, man. So thanks for just joining us and like talking to us. We were super excited for your ideas and your questions. Um, really excited to just kind of hear what you have to say, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
It's kind of funny. It all started about the middle of last year.
Mhm.
My girlfriend has
Hmm.
a little terrier. His name is Mochi,
Nice.
and
Mochi.
yeah, he's a little crazy. Barks at
Mhm.
anything he sees.
Mhm.
He's a lot better now, but she took him to training, and she ended up taking him to Corey Chavez.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
Yeah,
my
uh-huh.
homie. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
yeah,
funny.
yeah. You guys
That's
had
awesome.
him. I think
Yeah,
like
we had him on
episode.
episode 10. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, episode 10.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Um, and so we go to pick him up, and he does like a 3-week stay with him,
Mhm, mhm,
and we go to pick him up, and it was just like night and day.
mhm.
And I was so amazed and impressed. And when we were leaving, she stopped and she looked at me in the car and she's like, "Hey, I think you could do this," because I had
Cool.
like mentioned it to her. And then like the gears just started moving, and I wanted to know more about like his methods, what he did,
Mhm,
everything. So I
mhm,
searched him on YouTube,
mhm.
and that episode came up.
Okay.
Nice,
And that's
nice.
how I found you guys, and just been
Oh,
listening to your show ever since.
It's awesome,
yeah.
man.
Corey's a good
Yeah.
friend of mine. He was actually here for Thanksgiving, so he will
Oh,
be
that's awesome.
very happy to know that. So I'll let
Yeah.
him know. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Like he inspired it. Yeah. I went
That's
to
so cool.
I wanted to message him when I left, but it was just early on and I didn't know like, didn't know where to go,
How
how to
did how
navigate
did how
anything.
did how did she find him? Are you guys both in San Fran?
Yeah, we're both out here. I guess her sister was doing research and he popped up,
That's amazing.
and yeah, we made the road trip and it was worth it.
That's awesome. That's so great to hear. He's gonna be so
Yeah.
happy to hear that.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's doing great and I'm still working with him and he's getting better and better.
What were the issues he was dealing with?
Very reactive.
Okay.
I think it's I
He
think
was a terrier.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little mix. I
Okay.
think it was just excitement, and he didn't know how to handle it, and he's still kind of dealing with it. But it just makes it easier for them to go about their day, and then he has
Mhm.
more like fulfillment and purpose. So
Mhm,
the issues are kind of going down.
Good.
mhm,
There's like this
mhm.
one German Shepherd he hates.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
There's always
There's always
that
that
one.
one
yeah,
dog
that one, yeah.
Mhm. A
But
mortal enemy.
yeah,
for no reason too. It's probably like a really nice German Shepherd, and the dog just hates him.
yeah, yeah. Maybe that's why he's just too nice.
He's too nice. He's like, I don't
Yeah,
trust you,
it's like bark a
German
little or
bastard.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started with him, and then I just was like consuming everything I could. I grew up with dogs, so when I was 3 years old, we had a chow chow,
Mhm,
and I think we kind of had it when we shouldn't have,
mhm.
and the landlord found out, and so
Mm.
we had to give it up. And I remember we went in the parking lot, and they just came and picked up our dog, and
Mm.
I just like cried in the parking lot. And my mom's
How
like, "We
old
have
were
to
you?
leave." I was 3.
Oh, that's
Oh
rough.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
and I
fact you
just remember
remember it
going.
like that, yeah,
I
that's
know.
crazy.
Yeah, I think that's like one of my earliest memories.
Sad.
Um,
Very sad.
Yeah, right. But yeah,
Well,
ever
talk
since
to
then,
us.
just like Dobermans and Pipples. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to us about. So I was kind of reading back through the messages from the other day. So you're currently working at a daycare?
Yeah, I work at a daycare right now, and we had a trainer that was visiting from Chicago,
Mhm.
and his partner helped write the Art of Training Your Dog by
Mm.
the monk
Okay.
Sunuski.
It's
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, and so he spent 6. I got about 5 weeks with him learning, just kind of trying to pay attention to everything I could, and then he
What'd
left.
you
And go ahead.
What'd you work on?
We started with a lot of like healing patterns,
Mhm.
um, very brief like introduction to e-collar.
Okay.
Um, it seemed really quick. Like um, as soon as we get the dog, we're throwing like the prong on them and like doing about turns outside, and
Mm-hmm.
just like super super rapid. We didn't get a lot of time to observe him to do like basics like sits and downs.
Okay.
Um, but it was still nice to have the guidance here and there, but a lot of just like slow introduction to e-collar, um, healing patterns, trying to teach leash manners, things like that.
Did you do much food work?
No, and that's kind of what I've been kind of wondering, confused about,
Mm.
and just trying to figure out how to navigate through. I mean, I'm sure each method has its own like place and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But after listening to like your guys' episode on balance training,
Mm-hmm.
Like I definitely feel I'd like to find out how to use, each part with each individual dog.
Right. There's definitely so you're working at a daycare and you're planning on kind of transitioning over into more training with the dogs, which is awesome. You'll notice, and I don't remember, Brent, if it was the episode about the deeper look into balance training. I think it was later that we talked more about. You always want to make sure that you get yourself nice and solid with whatever method it is that you're starting with before you move into something else. Not because
Right.
it's not good to be adaptive, because it absolutely is. And food work is definitely something that you should learn.
Yeah.
Because we find that most newer trainers, they kind of like bounce here, there, and they're just not quite that solid at any one thing,
Right.
And so even though you're approaching things from different angles, the dog still isn't as sharp as they could be, and it just ends up being harder for the trainer because they're I'm not sure if you've trained a dog yet, like beginning to end, but if you have, then maybe you know this feeling. So I know that you were working with the other trainer. When Brent and I used to live in LA. I live in Phoenix now, and Brent's in LA. So when we used to work together for a bit, we would have a couple of assistants. We noticed that they hit this point to where they know each individual thing. Like if you were to tell them to work sits with food, they know how. Tell them to work downs with leash pressure, they know how. And they know all the stuff, but they don't know how to make it all one program. So they still come to you like, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know when and how to push the dog, to what degree. When do you transition from leash to e-collar to, or whatever the case. So you would see in them this kind of I'm just going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then maybe I'll go and do this, and there was like a lot of lateral motion, but the dog never was getting progressively pushed to the next level.
Right.
So for that reason, it's nice to learn whatever method you're starting with. Could be leash, could be food, whatever the case. And then when you do, get really good at something else. And same thing, learn how to push a dog through a program straight with food, straight with, a halty, straight with e-collar, straight with whatever. And then you'll learn how to blend between them while actually making forward progress instead of just kind of jumping around.
Right. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It's a team of 3 now, and the master trainer, he left back to his own business. And me and the second trainer started within 3 days of each other. We started early October. And then the other trainer started in about June. And so it's just us 3. And we are the only trainers at the daycare.
And how's that going?
I mean, the clients are happy.
Okay.
But I think I don't think there's a lot of consistency in between each trainer.
Right.
Versus like how hard certain trainers' corrections are, how forgiving they are. Even something as simple as like leaving the door to go outside. Like, are you going to wait for the dog to sit until you step out, or are you going to wait until you step into the door? Little things where I can tell the dog's kind of confused.
Right.
And so I just feel kind of stuck. Go ahead.
Well, you were talking about this other trainer before he left, because I understand he went back to his business. But before he did, you said that his partner wrote up like the art of dog training. The art of dog training. But did he write up the curriculum for your guys' training programs there? Like, is there a core curriculum at your guys' facility, or is it just 3 trainers kind of doing somewhat their own thing?
It's more of the latter.
Okay. That's probably what I'd have you work on now is get some sort of a unified idea of like, listen,
a company
dogs leave doors. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Because I think it's easier. That's one thing that I did at my old company is I actually had to actually break down phases and lists and protocols for training, right? Because especially the bigger the team gets, the easier it is that everyone kind of gets off topic. And there is kind of a fine line too, because one of the dynamics was, is there are trainers who are just really good at reading. They're not necessarily good at following directions, but part of working as the team is at least being able to check certain skills off of a list, right? My dog can sit stay, my dog can down, my dog can recall, my dog can heel, my dog can do this. And does my dog know how to do it happily? Right. That's
right. Yeah. Engaged.
Is he engaged? Is he happy about it? Right. And I think those are going to be at least things that so the way I know Corey Chavez, we actually worked at the same company for many years. Right. So we actually grew up we all worked at the same company. Me and Corey worked at different times than me and Mariano worked together. No, at the same time, there was overlap.
Yeah, I was going to say I worked with Carr for a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah, there was an overlap for a couple of years, but we were lucky enough to grow up under more experienced dog trainers that taught us systems, right? They taught us their systems. And then when we kind of got up to their level, we ended up revising the systems to stimulate what we thought the standard should be. But there was always a standard, right? There was always an expectation. There was always a common thread and a through line of, what is the owner's experience going to be like? What is, what is the teaching style going to be like? And we had a mentor that the owner of the company would actually, we'd try our best to copy his style, and eventually we took his style and we turned it into our own. And it's so funny, like me, Corey, Max, Daniela, Mariano, we all came from a similar foundation, right? But we all teach very different. But the through line, the spine of it all is all going to be very core rooted in principles that we all share.
Yeah.
So I guess, trying to find that identity of your training is really important.
Yeah. And I've had fun, and it's been super engaging to try to navigate through that. But I did see an opportunity to go to a place that solely focuses on training. And I went and I interviewed, and it was very like intimidating. Like every dog there is on a prong and an e-collar. Like even like the 4-month-old puppies, 3-month-old puppies. And then he started, I got to work with one of the other trainers there. And once he started working with the dog, it was just like art. Like there was so much patience, so few corrections, more just like body work, using the leash in like other ways, slow and steady pressure. And I was just like super interested, but I don't know, the method there is like very unique. He says he discovered it himself. It's his own method. There's no meals. All the meals are through food work. And so I was just kind of stuck. Like, I know I've heard, in multiple episodes, like find a mentor. So I'm just wondering, is this the best way to like learn this person's methods? Or is the situation I'm in like kind of, good? Because he also wants an 18-month commitment.
And that's real. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I understand that. The guy who I originally, again, this is a very merit-based, type of field to be in, right? Like I remember I volunteered for 2 months with my first mentor. And then I ended up being like, hey, I can't afford to do this for free. And then he gave me a full-time job after that. Right. But I don't know if that's legal these days, but the idea is like, people want to make sure that you're committed, because if a person has a system, or if a person, and again, the person's system that you learn now, you will learn as a foundation, and it's good to have a foundation. And then eventually you might see, because you're your own intellect, you might see that there are gaps in that foundation, but it's at least a place you started. And then later in your career, you'll say, okay, I'm going to study under this person, or maybe not study under, but I know enough about dog training where I can just learn from videos, or from, like we learned so much from Michael Ellis and Tyler Muto and Sean O'Shea, and we learned so much, but it's once we already understood dog training. You know what I mean? So it's having that foundation of working with the dog, kind of knowing, what problem areas you might run into, and then you hear someone talk about it, and you hear the solution that they talk about it, and you're able to put it in practice right away. Right. So I think starting with a mentor is extremely important if you want to have a solid foundation. Right. There are dog trainers out there who, they're very clever people. They're very smart. They read a couple books. They worked with a couple dogs that are a couple rescues, and they're being effective, right? Because just simply doing some type of work is going to make you effective. But learning more than the art of dog training, learning how to teach, learning clients, so you just have to look at your mentor that you have in mind and be like, is this a person that I look up to? Is this a person that I want to share those skill sets that they have, right? And if the answer is yes, great mentor to have.
That's a great point. I noticed that's true. It's learning how to be, or getting to the point as a dog trainer to where you're going to be successful and making good money and stuff like that. It does take way more broad skill sets than just learning how to work hands-on with dogs. There is a certain way to work with the clients. There is a certain kind of method that you run group classes and things like that. And that means you need to know at least somewhat how to speak in public and all that good stuff. Be comfortable. I think the best way that I can describe it, because obviously everybody understands that you're working with a client, so know how to hold that conversation, of course. But I'm sure you can do that as it is. It's more like learn how to be comfortable, not only having the conversation, but dictating the conversation, because you'll see like the really, really like polished dog trainers, they have fun, they'll throw little jokes in there, whatever. Like the clients are laughing. It's a great time. But also they're like, okay, anyway, so let's get down to this, and then they move it on. Because I've also seen lessons where, the newer dog trainer is, maybe they're shy at first and they're just kind of going through the motions and they're very like robotic and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's just kind of like straight to the point, which isn't necessarily bad. And then at some point they open up, they find out, oh, you like the Star Trek movie too? Awesome. And then from there, they start joking around, which is good. Now the trainer opens up, but then they spend too much time talking from then on out. And then the lesson's productivity kind of dips down a little bit, and they like each other. But then it's like, I also paid you money to be here to train my dog. And we kind of talked about movies for like 25 minutes. So
it does happen.
So once you get comfortable learning how to push that tide of like, oh, haha, that's awesome. Anyway, let's go, blah, blah, blah. Then I think you find a really nice groove. And I think a great way to learn that skill set is if you're going to work with that guy as a mentor, and if he does group classes, go to the group class. He's going to run it, of course, and you just kind of get comfortable watching how he dictates. Right. Assisting with 6, 7, 8 people, whatever the group class size is, and noticing how you can task switch between everybody else while not spending too much time, but making sure everybody has what they need, and even making those executive decisions like, listen, I understand you're struggling right now, but I've got to finish up the class. How about we schedule a lesson later and I'll get you where you need to be, like that type of thing, So I think that would be a great thing to do. And another thing is, I think me and Brent talked about this just like 2 episodes ago, which was get comfortable as a newer trainer, because I wasn't. I don't think Brent was. Keeping client standards realistic. Like as a new trainer, they're like, hey, can you make this, aggressive dog like the perfect daycare dog? And you just want to be like, yeah.
Like anything is possible. Yeah.
Right. You want the sale or whatever. You don't want to be like, no, and have
I wouldn't even say it's the sale perhaps, but it's just like there is a certain level of naive optimism that you have when you're really pride,
and
it's a mixture. It's a mixture. Or like, I know I could handle this. If it was my dog, I could make it happen.
Right.
There's naive confidence, naive pride, naive optimism. It's naive. It's naive.
And it's just like, it's not about the money. It's not like the sale, but it's just, you don't want to be like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It kind of hurts to do that. But the thing about that is, when you have more time in training, and Michael Ellis put this, beautifully, I think Tyler did too, which was, for all those trainers that bash, this method, that method, whatever, they are amazingly talented in the type of method that they've chosen to work with. And that's great. Mm-hmm. But whether or not you can train the dog with this method is one thing. Whether or not you can realistically expect the owners to do the same thing in the real world is different. Maybe they're not amazing with food work like Zach George is, or, maybe they're not amazing with decollar like Tyler Muto and Sean O'Shea and Jeff Gelman and stuff like that are. So you have to kind of play that game of, you walk into the situation and you think, okay, so in my opinion and based on my experience, the dog needs XYZ, but the owner needs these other things. So I'm going to try to find out, ABC, 1, 2, 3. And so then you have to go and kind of play that game of like, hey, listen, what if I were to meet you guys in the middle and say, you don't have to buy another crate, but I want to work place with you. And that's going to mean you're going to need to do this, this, and this to get us to where the place command is solid and, whatever the case, and start bridging that gap.
Yeah. I think, mentorship is important, man. Do you like this mentor? Do you think he's going to be good?
I don't know. It's like I did some searching on like the business reviews, and there's some things that kind of aren't as good as I'd want to see.
I would definitely recommend be with someone who is also good at business. Okay,
that's where it's hard because I feel like where I'm at now, the owner of the daycare is like showing me all these little, like I get to work with clients one-on-one every day. Mm-hmm. I do all the classes, I do everything. And it's a lot of responsibility for someone who has such short time learning. Mm-hmm. Like I was training dogs that clients were going to have to work with day one. Mm-hmm. And, I'm working through it and I would like to have a mentor. It's like this murky situation where I'm trying to decide which environment is better.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, so that's the question ultimately is, do you go study
Right.
and
Yeah.
mentor, or do you stay at the place that you are, that you have more responsibility, more freedom, more kind of more room to grow in a way,
Yeah.
but no mentorship?
Yeah, exactly.